The man at the centre of the football abuse scandal is in hospital. UKIP gets a new leader and the fertility rip-off. You're watching 5 News Tonight. Former football coach Barry Bennell is found unconscious by police, days after new allegations of child abuse. Paul Nuttall takes charge of UKIP and says he's got Labour in his sights, and claims IVF patients are paying thousands for extra treatment that will not improve their chances of a baby. Also tonight, we'll be discussing the rising numbers of suicides in prison. A record number of inmates have taken their own lives in England and Wales this year. And
type of person, I get nervous before my first race.
Bolt on the big screen. We're live at the premiere of the new movie about the fastest man on Earth. Good evening, welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Matt Barbett. The former youth coach at the centre of a child sex abuse scandal in football has been taken to hospital. Barry Bennell was found unconscious when paramedics reached him. The convicted paedophile has recently been back in the spotlight after a number of former players said he sexually abused them. 5 police forces are investigating claims of historical abuse, and the FA has begun an inquiry, but there are calls for it to do more. Our chief correspondent, Tessa Chapman, has the story.
The scandal that is rocking football has taken another twist. Barry Bennell, the former football coach and convicted paedophile, is believed to be in hospital tonight in Stevenage. Taken there by ambulance on Friday after he was found unconscious at a hotel nearby. Police described it as a fear for welfare incident. They wouldn't give any more details. But as he is treated, outside the storm is growing. The FA has started an internal inquiry, but some politicians are calling for much more, an independent, judge-led investigation.
The widespread nature of the abuse seems to be shocking, and the number of victims who are coming forward. But of course, what's shocking as well on top of that is allegations that have been made that clubs paid players to keep silent on these matters, that people took complaints to their clubs or to the Football Association, and we're not certain what happened with those complaints when they were made.
Andy Woodward was the first to speak out, but now more than 20 former players have made allegations of abuse at major clubs. Not just at Crewe Alexandra, but Blackpool, Manchester City, Stoke City, Leeds United and Newcastle United. 4 police forces have also confirmed they're investigating abuse in football, not just restricted to Barry Bennell. Journalist Deborah Davies can't believe it's all taken so long. She filmed a documentary in 1997 when Barry Bennell was first jailed in America for abuse.
Possibly a whole generation of boys, certainly dozens, maybe even hundreds, had been abused by him. The FA simply didn't want to know. They refused an interview. When I doorstepped their head of coaching outside the FA, he quite literally walked past me, saying nothing.
David Mellor was sports minister at the time. He told me the FA must reveal what they knew.
The FA's been unfit for purpose for years, and the fact is that every time there's a problem in football, you learn that the FA knew about it and did nothing about it until they're dragged into the light. I am angry about it because I think that parents deserve their children to be protected. They deserve the security of knowing their children are protected.
There are questions not only about what happened, but how it was allowed to happen. Questions about the culture of a game that must now hold itself to account.
Tessa's with me now, and Tessa, yet another police force is also now investigating.
Yeah, we've just heard, Matt, in the last hour that Greater Manchester Police is launching an investigation into allegations of child abuse in football. Thames Valley Police, meanwhile, is the force that found Barry Bennell. They use that phrase, a fear for welfare incident. And I asked them whether they could comment on this particular case. They said no, obviously. But they did explain that they use that phrase either to mean concerns that a person's physical or mental health might be in danger, or concerns that a person might be about to harm themselves or others. So still not a clear picture of what's happened to him, but we do understand he's still in hospital tonight. At the same time, pressure is really growing on the FA. We've had a statement from them. They say an internal review will look into what clubs knew, what action was or should have been taken. Critics insist that's not enough, though. They say this should be done independently by someone from outside football. So it'll be interesting to see how the FA respond to that.
All right, Tessa, thanks very much indeed. UKIP has another new leader. Paul Nuttall won the vote to take over from Nigel Farage, who came back to lead the party for the third time when Diane James stepped down after just 18 days in the top job. Mr Nuttall says he wants UKIP to replace Labour and be the patriotic voice of working people, as Simon Viger reports.
I've got a certain déjà vu feeling about this morning.
Yes, it was happening all over again. But this time, Nigel Farage said retirement really does mean retirement. The newly elected UKIP leader is Mr Farage's former deputy, Paul Nuttall. Of course, Nigel Farage has been busy since Brexit, and UKIP are now channeling Trump.
Donald Trump spoke about making America great again. Under my leadership, we will ensure that this country gets the Brexit that it voted for on June the 23rd. And then we will put the great back into Britain.
But they've got what they wanted, so what's the point of UKIP now?
There is an open goal for UKIP in Labour working class communities where people feel neglected by the Labour Party. They don't sign up to Jeremy Corbyn's programme, and we can move in and be the patriotic voice of working people.
So you're still going for MP, still going for constituency seats, there's still a point to UKIP?
Oh, absolutely. UKIP is now going to thrive. It will go up in terms of membership. It will be completely restructured. And we will absolutely drill down into local communities, get more councillors elected, and you'll see more UKIP MPs in 2020.
Paul Nuttall is from Bootle and is an MEP for the North West. He inherits a party in a mess. There was the leader who didn't want the leadership, Diane James, and the man who did but ended up in hospital. That happened after a fracas with a colleague, but Stephen Wolfe is fine now. Paul Nuttall told me hard-working EU migrants have nothing to worry about.
All we wanted to do was to take back control of our own destiny in terms, as I said, of laws, finance, borders, trade. You have absolutely nothing to be frightened of at all.
He is in favour of the death penalty for child murderers and also a ban on burqas.
We have to ask the question whether a woman living behind a veil has any place in 21st century Britain.
If that's her choice.
If that's her choice, but then you have to look at the other issues surrounding security, because whether we like it or not, we're the most watched people in the world. There's more CCTV in Britain per head than anywhere else on the planet. And for CCTV to be effective, you need to see people's face.
The new leader of UKIP has his work cut out, while the not very shy and retiring old one looks on. Simon Viger, 5 News.
With me now is UKIP's Deputy Leader, Peter Whittle. Good evening to you, Peter.
Hello, Matt.
Who do you think your new leader is appealing to when he says patriotic working people?
Well, I know exactly who he's appealing to, because anybody who's stood for UKIP, anyone who's been involved in any elections over the past couple of years, knows that the people who have been coming over to us in huge numbers are in fact former Labour voters. And mostly they are voters of all ages who voted Labour in the past, but now realise that the current Labour Party doesn't really care about the issues they care about. Indeed, they're very disdainful of them.
What about people who voted to remain in the EU? Are you appealing to them?
Well, yes. I mean, look, it's a question of...
Unemployed people?
Yeah.
Appealing to them? Non-white people?
Of course. Of course.
You say of course, but some people... Because your former leader, Nigel Farage, has been talking about the rise of Donald Trump in the States, and a lot of people are putting that down to what's called the alt-right. Some people that others refer to as neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So, if he's likening this latest rise to that, then non-white people might think actually UKIP is more akin to that too.
No, look, we're absolutely not. And in fact, Paul made it quite clear today that he is not going to be a leader who, in fact, gets involved in foreign elections or whatever. That's what Nigel did.
So it's a complete break with your most charismatic member then?
No, not a complete break. Look, I came into the party because of Nigel. That was my reason I came in. And I think that it's unquestionable that he is the most influential politician of the past couple of generations. But UKIP has got to go on to new fields. You know, we had one extraordinary success with the referendum. I don't think anybody would doubt that it was, without us, we wouldn't have had the referendum. What we've got to do now is look towards 2020. And when Paul talked about us replacing Labour as the official opposition, that's when that would start.
Because he's got his work cut out, hasn't he? I mean, I'm sure you'll admit the party's been in a bit of disarray Since the
bad
election,
summer.
Nigel Farage quit, he came back. Britain voted to leave the EU, as you point out. Nigel Farage quit again. He was replaced after a shambolic election, returned again in the interim, and now Mr Nuttall. And in the meantime, you've got one MP who's been sidelined by the previous leadership. What's going to happen to him?
Well, look, no, I mean, he's carrying on. I mean, Douglas Castle will carry on. The point is that today, Paul got the highest mandate in UKIP's history. You know, he got 62% of the vote. That's an extraordinary mandate. His mandate as well, and his message is to bring the party together, to unify it, because people want a party like UKIP in Britain.
To do what?
Well, because basically there is no opposition to this government, really. It is not being carried out by the opposition that is there in name, but also because they actually have no sense of what people are really concerned about and worried about in this country. And we have the most enormous opportunity to go into those areas of ordinary working people in the north, in the Midlands, and indeed in the south and around London as well, and represent them. And I would say that it's not just an opportunity, it's a positive duty to give people a voice.
All right, Peter Whittle, many thanks.
Thank you.
Theresa May says she wants to strengthen ties between the UK and Poland as she prepares for formal negotiations over Britain's exit from the European Union. The Prime Minister has been under pressure to guarantee the rights of Polish people living here, but says she will only do that if she receives the same assurances from her counterparts in continental Europe. Our political editor Andy Bell has more.
Take a look down most British high streets and you'll see that plenty of Poles have made Britain their home, at least for a time. There are more than 900,000 living in the UK, and many are now wondering just how the referendum could change their lives. In this West London hair salon, they're looking for a little reassurance about their future.
I would like to know where we're standing, like in a long term, because, you know, I've been living here quite a long time, so I quite like to know how to plan in the next couple of years, you know, my life.
I have a son and he's 2 years old, and in a couple of years he has to start school. So I would like to hear what is the plan for people who lives long time, like my family.
Unusually, Theresa May met her Polish opposite number west of London to go to the memorial which commemorates the Poles who fought alongside British forces in World War II. With all the uncertainty over Brexit, Britain is emphasising how both countries can cooperate on defence even more closely. As a symbol of that, 150 British troops are being sent to an area of Poland which borders Russian territory. But it's Brexit which overshadowed this meeting, and on the rights of Polish and other EU citizens living here, the Prime Minister would not budge from her stated view.
I've also reiterated my plan to guarantee the rights of Poles and other Europeans currently living in the UK, so long as the rights of British citizens living across the EU are guaranteed. And I hope we can reach an early agreement on this issue, providing certainty for Polish citizens here and British people living in Europe.
Beata Szydło has said her country will be constructive on Brexit. But today she'd only say everyone must wait for the formal negotiations to begin. Around this table today, much talk of British and Polish friendship. And right now, Britain needs its friends in the EU. Andy Bell, 5 News.
Next, a record number of inmates have killed themselves in prison in England and Wales this year. It's been revealed a prisoner takes their own life every 3 days. And so far this year, the total number of prison suicides is 102. That is the highest number since the current recording methods began back in 1978. Campaigners have warned the number of suicides in jails is now at epidemic proportions. I'm joined in the studio by Carl Catamol, a former prisoner who was jailed for 2.5 years for criminal damage. And from the Howard League for Penal Reform, Andrew Nielsen is here as well. And Andrew, first, what do you think the reasons are for this?
Well, I think when you look at when the numbers of self-inflicted deaths really began to shoot up, it was about the same time that we saw big cuts to staffing in the prisons around 2013. Frontline prison officers were reduced by something like 30%. And that's when you start to see the numbers of deaths each year really starting to go up and up.
We've seen trouble in prisons recently. We've seen frustration from prison officers and their representatives. Is this going to get better anytime soon or worse?
I think the fear is that it could get worse. I mean, certainly in terms of suicides, we're not at the end of the year yet, and we're actually about to hit one of the times of the year which is perhaps most vulnerable for some prisoners, Christmas, when people really, it does hit home that they are separated from their families and their loved ones. So we will expect more deaths. I think more broadly, there is a window for reform. The government does want to do something about what they acknowledge as a safety crisis in prison. It's whether they'll be bold enough.
Well, we'll come to that in just a second, but Carl, you seem to be nodding in agreement. Does this tally with your experiences when you were inside?
Definitely. Everyone who's seen behind the wall, you know, whether it's an ex-prisoner like myself, Andrew from a penal reform charity, Conservative ministers or Labour government ministers, we're all saying the same thing. The prison system needs to be changed, and it needs to be changed urgently.
They made some changes, the government, for example, outlawing what were legal highs before and citing that they were such a problem in prisons. Will that make a difference?
Yeah, I think that any reduction in terms of the amount of drugs that are available on the prison wing will make a positive difference. I mean, the prison system is awash with drugs simply through lack of investment in preventative measures.
When you say preventative measures, do you basically mean prison officers?
I mean, yeah, prison officers, but also people just throwing things over holes in the fence, which, you know, like I work in construction, there's these big gaping holes. If you give someone $1,000, they could go and fix it, but the prison system is so underfunded that you've just got these, it's just, yeah, it's insane.
And you experienced people killing themselves in prison?
I had a friend who killed himself in prison, not while I was inside, but yeah, he was sentenced to 2 years for painting graffiti, and he's from Croydon. He was shipped off to the Isle of Wight, and while he was away, he was finding it really difficult to stay in contact with the people who he loved, you know, like his friends and his family, and he committed suicide while he was in prison. And I think that if he hadn't been given a custodial sentence, he'd been given a community sentence, which might have been more suitable for his crime. I think that he would actually be contributing to society now. I think he'd be fitting windows or air conditioning, whatever he'd be, or carpentry, whatever he'd be doing, he'd be alive and contributing to society, you know?
Andrew, plenty of people will have opinions on this, and I'm sure there are plenty of answers as well. There's no easy answer to sorting this out. But if the government could do one thing quickly to make a difference to the prison population and still rehabilitate or punish, what should it be?
I think that they do need to look at the rules that operate in prison. They were toughened up a few years ago, and it's the same time frame that the staff cuts happened and the same time frame when the deaths began to rise. We think the rules are too punitive. They need to be relaxed. The Ministry of Justice has recognised that in the white paper that Liz Truss recently announced, that there is a problem. If we could relax those rules, that might give some ease on the pressure, but we also, in the end, really need to look at big system-wide reform.
OK, gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed. Still to come on 5 News Tonight. Children flee Aleppo as Syrian government forces move into the city. And are people being ripped off when it comes to paying for extras with IVF? Also,
every year I worry, am I still fast? This year I've said I'm having doubts, I'm not motivated. But then, everything changed.
Live in the fast lane, we're at the premiere of the new film about this man, Usain Bolt. That's all coming up after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News Tonight. Now, her posts on social media show what day-to-day life is like in the besieged Syrian city of Aleppo. And overnight, 7-year-old Bana Alabed, who tweets with the help of her mum Fatima, sent what she said was her last message. Can't be alive anymore. When we die, keep talking for the 200,000 still inside. Thousands have fled the city after a weekend of heavy fighting, but many still remain, and aid workers describe the situation on the ground as beyond imagination. As Charlotte Grant explains.
They've already lived through months of bombing and shelling, but with fighting intensifying in Aleppo over the past few days, these people are now fleeing, picking their way through what is left of the eastern part of their city. Just how many people have left their homes isn't clear, but there are reports as many as 10,000 have been forced to flee. And this is why In the Hanana neighbourhood, there's little reason for civilians to stay. But for Syrian government forces, this area now represents a major victory. For 4 years, the eastern part of the city's been under rebel control. But now, after a weekend of heavy fighting, the Syrian army claims it seized back control of several key areas, effectively cutting rebel territory in half for the first time. But away from the power struggles, for people, life is worryingly desperate. 7-year-old Banner's been documenting her experiences on social media for the past few months.
I am sad. It's so bad.
Posting videos like this one to show what life is really like in Aleppo. But over the weekend, she filmed this video calling it a difficult afternoon before tweeting, "Tonight we have no house. It's bombed and I got in rubble. I saw deaths and I almost died. And then, under heavy bombardments now, in between death and life now, please keep praying for us." In the last few hours, Banners said her and her family are also now on the run. As the UN agrees, conditions are deteriorating.
There's no medicine, there are no functioning health facilities. 250,000 people are there who need assistance, 100,000 of whom are children. And so the situation is dire.
But there is no let-up in the fighting, as many wonder if this is the beginning of the end of the rebellion in Aleppo. Charlotte Grant, 5 News.
Anyone paying for IVF could end up spending thousands of pounds on add-on treatments which are a waste of money, according to research by Oxford University. Around 52,000 women undergo in vitro fertilisation every year. It can cost up to £5,000 a cycle, maybe more, and only a quarter result in a live birth. Some pay extra for additional tests or drugs, but a new investigation claims this may not increase the chances of having a baby. It could even be harmful, as Peter Lane reports.
So, what are we looking for?
Kira spent 4 years and £30,000 on IVF, finally having Oscar after paying for add-on treatment to suppress her immune system, which had been attacking the implanted embryos.
Every single day I am grateful. Every single day I feel lucky. Infertility is not a choice. It is an extremely painful process, particularly for a woman. It attacks your self-esteem, it attacks your self-worth. And yes, you have to accept there is an element of luck, but you can at least throw the odds in your favour, I believe, by some of these add-on treatments that are appropriate to you.
But when it comes to odds versus scientific proof, researchers from Oxford University say 26 out of 27 add-ons they saw offered by clinics didn't have strong enough scientific evidence of success. Their list includes assisted hatching, where a hole is made in the outer embryo lining. It costs £450. Blast assist culture, where embryos are grown for longer in the lab, costing £800. And genetic embryo screening for abnormalities, which costs £3,500. But there have been examples of it reducing the chance of a successful pregnancy.
These interventions are not founded, they are expensive, they don't add value. Everything from embryo screening to astrology being used in the IVF process and anything in between, which beggars belief.
Industry regulator the HFEA told 5 News an increasing number of patients tell us they feel unsure about IVF treatment add-ons, whether they work and are worth the extra cost. We are concerned about the recent step change in the use of treatment add-ons. Unfortunately, we have limited powers to stop clinics offering them, nor to control pricing.
This is you inside Mummy's tummy.
Wow.
As for Kira, she counts herself doubly lucky that the treatment she paid for worked and, of course, that she could afford it. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Blink and you might miss him. There is no one faster than this man, Usain Bolt, and he's got 9 Olympic gold medals to prove it. Now a new film is charting his success.
I'm the type of person, I get nervous before my first race.
When he gets to the championship, he's just a different animal.
He gets this dormant quietness about him. I think he's going through everything in his head.
Every year at worry, I might still fast. This year I've said I'm having doubts, I'm not motivated. But then everything changed. He's gonna beat me? Hell no.
There we go. Usain Bolt took 2 years to film, and it follows the sprinter as he prepares for the Olympics in Rio. And beyond the track as well, the documentary gives us a bit of a glimpse of the man himself. It's getting its premiere in central London tonight. Minnie is there now. Minnie, has the main man arrived yet?
I can confirm that he has arrived, and given that he is the fastest human being on the planet, as you'd expect, he arrived on time, which we were pleased about. I've never seen anybody who's been mobbed so much for selfies as well. Now, the whole point of this documentary, really, is to learn a little bit more about the man behind the sprinter. You'll see his roots from Jamaica right up to him winning at Rio. But without further ado, let's take a look at the moment I met Usain Bolt. Now, I was going to ask you, obviously you've got the whole fastest man in the world thing down, you've done that. Do you fancy being a movie star now? Did it give you a taste of that?
For me, it would be good. It would be something different and it would be exciting. So it's something that I would really enjoy to do. But I think I want to play football first. You're
going to play football?
I would like to.
What position would you play? I mean, I see you at the front, but
I think as a winger, I'll be a better winger than anything else. You know what I mean? So it's something I would like to do.
Fantastic. And then we also hear that you might be moving into music as well, because you're a great DJ.
Yeah,
full-time DJ?
Yeah, I'm very good at DJing. That's something that it's just a hobby that I like to do in my spare time. So it'd be something that I would definitely do in my spare time.
Now, I don't want to be mean, but you said that you're not great at singing. We finally found something that you're not amazing at. Would you agree? Do you enjoy singing? We saw a little bit of it in the film.
No, I'm not going to sing. I was so embarrassed when I actually saw that clip. I totally forgot about it.
Have you got a karaoke song? Does Usain Bolt have a karaoke favourite song?
I never do karaoke.
No? That's the rule?
I'm no good. I only sing in my bathroom.
Now, your parents are in the film. They say lovely things about you. Were you worried about what they might say? Was there anything, did you say there's some stuff you're not allowed to talk about, Mum and Dad?
No, it was fine. I wanted people to know everything about me as much as possible, get an insight on my life. So it was pretty good, and I was happy about it.
Now, we hear you're going to retire.
Yeah.
How do you plan on spending retirement in your 30s? Are you going to be by the pool with a pina colada? What's it going to be like for you?
It's going to be a lot of work, you know what I mean? I think when I retire, I have more work than anything else. So it'll be charity work, more sponsor work. I'll try to work with track and field. It's going to be something big. It's going to be a lot of stuff.
Now, you are obviously one of the most famous men in the world. People are constantly asking you for selfies. Be honest, does it ever get annoying, or are you all kind of okay with that? Do you ever say no?
I'm fine, I understand. Sometimes I try to avoid it, but I try to do as much as possible.
And do you not fancy just one more Olympics?
No.
Tokyo 2020?
No,
nobody could tempt you?
9 gold medals are good.
I can't persuade you now?
No.
Never mind, Minnie. Look, you've seen the film. It took 2 years to make. Is it over in just under 10 seconds?
I think what you're going to see is much more of him not being a showman, but the solitary side, given that he's thought of being the greatest sportsman of all time by some. To use a horrible sort of reality TV word, you're going to see that journey to him becoming an athlete. So it's definitely going to be a bit more of a grown-up film.
All right, Minnie, thank you very much indeed. Not just a great runner, also a very good DJ, he reckons. That's it from us. Claire Nasir has the weather next, and Danny is back with updates throughout the evening. Thanks for watching. See you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.